And good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of As Good as It Gets. I'm Ricky Hampton, along with my good friend Derrick Gervin, former New Jersey Nets shooting guard. Coming to you on a Thursday. This is our version of a pregame show before game four of tonight's, game five of tonight's Boston Miami series. We want to get on and talk a little bit before they tip off. But first and foremost, how you doing, brother Derrick?
I'm doing fine, sir. How about you?
Doing good, man. This is one of my favorite times of year. The NBA playoffs are always exciting. These two conference finals have been not as close as I thought. Nuggets swept the Lakers, and Miami's up 3-1 on Boston. And let's start there. Is there any hope for the Celtics to come back in this series? No one has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in an NBA conference final.
Wow. Well, a lot of people thought that Miami would have ended it in the last game on Tuesday, but I wasn't one of those guys. I posted on Facebook early in the day that I really expected Boston to win game four, and I couldn't see them losing. Tonight, though, I'm looking at the Celtics again, and the main reason is because of the injury to Gabe Vincent. That's going to be huge. The question tonight is, can Duncan Robinson, will there be another Duncan Robinson sighting? I think for me, Duncan Robinson and Bam Adebayo have to try to replace some of those points that they were getting from Gabe Vincent. And if they could do that, then Miami has a really good chance of winning. But I just picked Boston tonight, especially if they move the ball. The reason Boston's been losing is because a lot of I won't say uncharacteristic, because they did it in the playoffs against Golden State. A lot of bad passes. The offense becomes stagnant, and they start going one-on-one, mainly Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And they make a lot of bad decisions. So I say they move the ball tonight. I think Boston is going to be just relieved to be back home. Hopefully them being relieved won't work in a negative way. And, yeah, I'm going to pick Boston to win this game and make it an interesting series.
Yeah, being back home should definitely help them. Hey, Joe Mazzulla has been getting a lot of criticism for Boston going down 0-3 in this series. And some people even said, this wouldn't happen if Udoka was still there. Of course, he's not. And that whole thing went down. Does that have any impact on what's happening with that team now? What happened early in the season with the coaching change?
Well, yeah, because I think I told you about this recently, last week actually, about Marcus Smart trying to walk into the game on his own without even acknowledging the coach. And then we get Jason Tatum throwing his hand at the coach on Tuesday. Yeah. So those are things that don't usually happen when you have an established coach. And so those are the things that make me nervous. And some of Joe Mazzulla's his game management, I'll say. He was better in the second half of the last game. He called a few timeouts when they needed, very timely timeouts. And the guys seemed to respond. Jason Tatum came out, played better in the second half. He looked like the Jason Tatum that people are accustomed to. But Joe Mazzulla is definitely a question mark for me. And tonight, he's the biggest question mark. Will he make the right decisions at the right time?
Is that something he needs to check those guys on when they go back after the game? Like, don't show me up on the court. I'm not going to show you up. Don't you show me up? Is that something? Or is that just the heat of the game?
I think it's something that needs to be addressed, but here's the other side, Ricky. Joe has never coached before as a head coach in the NBA, and he's only 34. So these guys, the familiarity is already there because he was there when Udoka was there. They just decided to bring him in as the head coach because they couldn't hire a new coach. I think a lot of people don't realize Udoka was suspended. He wasn't fired.
Right.
So their hands were kind of tied. So they picked someone off the bench. Brad Stevens chose Missoula. But I don't know the relationship that he had with the guys during the season. But whatever it was, now he's a head coach. And you know, when you move from that second seat to that first seat, things change like night and day. So I'm going to go in with a positive attitude tonight. I'm going to say the guys are going to respond. They want to do well in front of their fans. They want to get some of this negative talk out of the way. And I'm gonna say go Celtics tonight, and I think they can pull it off.
Hey, when you're an assistant coach, is that I don't know if this is the right word, but a more casual relationship with a player, maybe a more laid back relationship with a player, or not necessarily?
You might have a different relationship. Some guys need to have that coach that they could talk to when things don't go well. Kind of like DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix. Who was that guy that helps him get over the hump when he was getting into it with Monty Williams? And so, Joe Mazzulla might have that kind of relationship with a few of the guys. I think that they like him, though, as the coach. If you could win with a first-year coach, almost like last year. So you have to find a way to make it a positive. And I think these guys are old enough and mature enough to take all these negatives and kind of turn them around and find something positive out of this situation with Joe Mazzulla. And I think tonight they'll just respond. I say once again, it comes down to him making the right decisions, calling the right plays at the right time. And if he does that, I say that Boston comes out and they win convincingly tonight.
They win convincing. They go up 3-2. Now the pressure's on Miami. Am I right?
The pressure is on both because you still got one game from being knocked out. So it becomes equal pressure because the last thing you want is to, even though game 6 would be in Miami, I must look at it like this, Ricky. The 8th seed, if an 8th seed is capable of winning 3 in a row, you don't want to let a 2 seed get on the roll. Because I know a 2 seed is capable of winning 4 in a row. So Miami really needs to finish it off tonight. I know Jimmy Butler's mind will be simply on finishing it off tonight. He will do everything he has in his arsenal. And this might be a night that Jimmy has to go back in his bag of tricks, Ricky, and pull out the 40 bag or the 50 bag. And if he does that, then, of course, I'm going to say Miami wins. But that's a big if. But we know Jimmy Butler is a playoff assassin. So with him, anything's possible.
Yeah, but that the loss of Vincent is big for them, you say?
I think it's very big. That's going to make Duncan Robinson have to be the Duncan Robinson that they gave that 3-year, $90 million to. He's going to be needed more so than he was. Of course, we know Tyler Hero, 20 points, is still out. So without Tyler Hero, Oladipo tried, Ricky. They tried to give him a run. It just didn't seem to work. He still was up and down with his health. Right when he was doing well, then we know he got the big injury again. And I'm still praying that he can get back and come back next year and finish his career out on the floor instead of having to retire because of injuries. But, yeah, Duncan Robinson is a big guy tonight that they need to step up. And I'm looking at him and Bam Adebayo. I think that they need about 40 points between Bam and Duncan Robinson if they're going to win this game.
Okay. Hey, let's go west. And the Denver Nuggets are going to be in the NBA Finals. Swept the Lakers. And I'm not surprised that they won the series because they were the better team. I am a little surprised that they swept the Lakers. I thought the LA would get one, or maybe 2 in this series. Your thoughts on how this series played out?
Well, from the beginning, I picked Denver to win the series, but I thought it would go 6 games, to be honest. If you look at it, they had no answer for Jamal Murray. And on the other end, D'Angelo Russell, if you're going to have a guy that's giving you 37, you got to at least get something from the guy that's guarding him. And I thought D'Angelo Russell had too many disappearing moments in the entire series. I believe he shot like 20-something% in the series and like 15% from three. So that hurt him. And then you didn't get a lot of from guys like Jarrett Vanderbilt. He was there to play defense and all that. But at some point in the season, they had him in what they call the dunk spot, that little short corner over there. And that didn't seem to work. If you notice, he didn't play 1 second in the fourth game. In game 4, he didn't play a second. They decided to go with Tristan Thompson. And, Ricky, I got to say this because I'm relieved because, I picked Denver. I was so glad to see them sit Tristan Thompson out those first 3 games. I thought he was a difference maker because I thought he could put his body on Jokic better than anyone else out there on their team. I also thought he was big on the Draymond stuff, the little hustle plays to get him second and third opportunities. And the guy's a champion. He's proven that he can win a championship with LeBron before. And so that made me happy to see them keep him on the bench so long. I think he could have made a difference in the series. I'm not saying that they would have won the series, but I'm thinking it would have been definitely a more interesting series, and we could have been looking at least a 5 or 6 game series.
The impressive thing to me about Denver was the play of KCP and Bruce Brown. And, here in Detroit, man, we look at those guys doing that thing and we just shed tears, man.
Well, since you mentioned Detroit, don't leave out a guy they got sitting on the bench as well, Ish Smith.
Yeah, I mean, that's how deep they are because Ish can go. But
Ricky, they never even used, look at that, the guys you just named, Ish Smith, and then they never used Thomas Bryant. They never had to use DeAndre Jordan, and they never had to use Zeke Naji. And Christian Brown, who I think is a fantastic player, similar to Austin Reeves, he rarely played. So you're just looking at a team that's deep. And then when you got your best player, Ricky, when your best player can shoot off 1 foot with the shot clock running down from 3-point range, something we've never seen before from a big man, oh, man. That makes that raises the confidence level of your entire team, the entire city.
And
something we never seen before.
You played several years in Europe and overseas. Did you see this influx of European players coming? The great players we have now, like Luka and the Joker. Could you see that coming?
Yeah. Ricky, in my era, they had these guys that could play, okay? The first one they brought over from Spain, rest in peace, his name was Fernando Martin. He played for the Portland Trail Blazers. He was a legend in Spain and Europe. So I saw a lot of good players over there that were really tough. The thing was they were getting paid so well. The teams didn't want them to leave and abandon their country and go to the United States. So they basically made them offers they couldn't refuse. But I saw many players that could play that were NBA worthy. Walter Serbiak, the dad of Wally Serbiak, was phenomenal. Oscar Schmid was phenomenal.
Yeah.
They had this guy in Italy named Dalla Pagic that George still talks about how great he was. They had several players. There's a guy named Nico Gallis from Greece. Gallis, Gallis. I saw a lot of superstars over there that I knew could play in the NBA, but they wanted to stay home because they were being paid handsomely.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. How is Denver going to be the favorite no matter who comes out of the East?
Oh, without question, especially the way Boston has been so up and down. Even if Boston were to come back and win the series, we've seen it before. The up and down play of Jason Tatum is an issue. The up and down play of Jaylen Brown is an issue. Sometimes they get in the habit of overhandling the ball, and they're not really good passers. That's what bothers me with all these coaches in Boston. Why haven't they worked on these guys' decision making? And I'm just trying to figure out what are they doing during the course of the year. But we know Boston was picked by some people to come out of the East. Some people pick Milwaukee, some pick Boston. I actually picked Boston. I started seeing Milwaukee struggle, and I saw Giannis become the Giannis from the pre-championship year. So I picked Boston to come out of here, but Miami has come out like gangbusters, as they say. And I'm still thinking Miami should win this series, but wow, tonight is tell me if Boston's capable of winning the whole thing, winning this series. Not the whole thing, but this series. Denver will be the favorite no matter who comes out of the East.
Well, you mentioned Tatum and Jaylen Brown and their passing. Aren't those correctable issues?
I thought they were, Ricky.
I mean,
they've been in the league 6 years now. They've been in the league. So, every year we start saying Westbrook's going to make better decisions. It took him to be traded to the Clippers in year 14 before he might finally make better decisions. So I think that these guys are capable of making better decisions, but that comes from here. Stop worrying so much about being a scorer first and think more about becoming a scorer facilitator or a facilitator scorer, which is ever needed at that time. And I think that's the only change they have to make. Stop thinking score, 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 and think set up the best man or you take the best shot.
But see, I think Boston would be better served if they had a true point guard. I mean, Smart is obviously a good player, good defender. I just don't see him as a guy who organizes the offense.
Ricky, they have a point guard. They have two, but that's Joe Mazzulla again. Malcolm Brogdon, who I thought was brought in to be the point guard. Why couldn't you play Brogdon at the point and put Smart at the two? That makes more sense to me. And then you got Derrick White. So those are the things that when I say about Joe Mazzulla, to me from day one, Malcolm Brogdon would have been the guy that that's the conductor of the train. And then you get with him as the distributor. Now you can move Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum off the ball more, where they're coming off screens similar to Steph Curry. That's what I think would make Boston a more potent team. Instead of having those guys going one-on-one with the entire defense all focused in on you, all five guys looking, how about having them come off screens? And then when they catch the ball, they're in better scoring position.
And doing that's going to cut down on turnovers because they're going to
cut down everything, and it makes Miami use more energy because now they have to make an adjustment. They've already set up their game plan from day one of how Boston has played all year. The playoffs are about making adjustments from game to game, and that's what Joe Mazzulla hasn't done. It also helped keep those guys fresh. They would be so engaged. Jason Tatum is a great catch and shoot guy. And I'm talking from 2 or from 3. But they put the ball in his hands too much, Ricky, kind of like the Knicks were doing with Julius Randle.
Right.
They're using him the wrong way. I just think they're using him the wrong way. And Jaylen Brown.
And that's the one thing, the beauty of basketball is how you take these 5 guys and girls and young ladies and you mix and match their talents. And you could put 5 of the most talented players out there, but that don't necessarily mean they're going to be successful unless you can get them to play together. You might take another 5 that has a couple of lesser players, but they do the little things that set up the better players to help them win. I don't think any other sport really does that. football players, hey, you put it everybody. You still got to play together, of course, but I don't think any other sport has to mesh that well to be successful.
You're right, Ricky. You just described the Miami Heat, didn't you?
I didn't think I was. I wasn't thinking about it.
You just think about it. You just described the Miami Heat. They don't have a bunch of superstars. Do they have a superstar? No. They have a playoff superstar, Jimmy Butler. But look at how they play. He doesn't force it. You can't go in out. You can't put it on paper. Jimmy Butler's going to take 25 shots tonight. He's going to play according to what the game dictates. And that's what a championship team does. If you look at Jokic might take 7 or 8 shots in a game, Ricky, if it's necessary for them to do that to win. And that's why I give Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler so much credit. They only care about winning. And whatever it takes to win, Jimmy doesn't care if he scores 10 points or he scores 50 points. It's getting everyone involved from the 12th guy or the 15th guy today to the first guy. And that's why I commend Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat.
Yeah. I think of Philly. Philly had a chance to keep him around. Can you imagine him in that lineup, what they could do?
Well, for me, that's not a fair question. Yes, I can, but that means it would have come at the expense of Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But talking about winning, yes. If you look at it now, I'm sure no one regrets it more than Embiid, and that includes Daryl Morey. I almost wrote Daryl Morey last night on Messenger, but I didn't bother him about 2 in the morning. But yeah, I'm sure Embiid regrets that move more than anyone else.
And I'm not trying to hate on Tobias at all, because he is a good player. Tobias is he is a quality.
Yeah, but he's no. I'll say it for you. He's no Jimmy Butler. I'll be honest about it. Yeah, it's just Tobias is a serviceable player, a very good player that you could throw in, plug in to be that guy that's never going to complain. Yeah, he's never going to complain. He's always going to be a team player. You rarely see him get upset. But when you talk about Jimmy Butler, I mean, I have to be honest. I love Tobias and his family, but Jimmy Butler's not a guy that comes around every year. That's a once-in-a-generation guy, to be honest about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, after the Lakers were swept out, LeBron James made some comments, saying he had to think about whether he would return next year. This is 20th season, 38 years old. And he at times he looked 38 out there. And in his defense, there's a story out today. He's playing on a torn tendon in his foot that it's going to probably require surgery. But speaking after that game, when he talked about retiring, I was wondering how much was that emotion of just losing a game, or how much is that is reality? Because I don't think he wants to stick around to where I would think he would not want to stick around and be a guy that's just, a shell of himself out there.
Well, I never heard him mention the word retirement. I heard him say that he had some thinking to do about him in the game of basketball. But I took that as a message to Rob Pelinka to make some moves. We know LeBron's not going anywhere. He's already talked about how he wanted to play with his son. Right after the game, Ricky, guys are frustrated. And, they might say anything at that point.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah, you go home, man, you sit down, and he drink his glass of wine or whatever, and then a week later, he's got a whole different conversation when you interview him. I think he said that, for one, that he likes being in the limelight. We know him and his buddy who might go to the Lakers, him and Kyrie, they love the limelight. So he put that out there. They'll be talking about it all summer. So it's not like he's going to go away. Usually, if a guy's getting ready to retire, they look like my brother. My brother went away quiet. And so when you start putting things out there about I have some things to think about and all that, that means that you want the media to continue to entertain those kind of things. And I don't usually see players walk away like that when they do that. Now, I'm speaking from me being around the NBA since 1976. When guys talk like that, that's usually not a guy that's ready to retire. That's just a guy that wants the team to come out and do some things differently the following year.
And if he were to retire, he would lose around $100 million. Not that. I mean, I know LeBron got a lot of money, but 100 million is 100 million, man.
It's 100 million, but I mean, at his point, he's the type guy. Ricky, Jay-Z and Beyonce just paid 200 million cash for a house. So
yeah,
LeBron, 100 million would not be the deciding factor on whether he walked away or not, because he's going to make money every day for the rest of his life. Yeah. I just think he wants a better opportunity to win. And D'Angelo Russell, I never thought they were a good mix from day one. I just didn't think he was LeBron's type player. I thought Dennis Schrader was more of LeBron's type player and not D'Angelo Russell. So I just think he's sending a message out to Jeannie and to Rob Pelinka just to tweak the system. You're not going to get rid of Austin Reeves and some of these other Hachimura. Those guys will still be on board. Just tweak the team a little bit is what he's saying. And Ricky, I'm going to throw this out there. D'Angelo Russell, if he were to leave, what would you think and the listeners about a guy named Trae Young coming into the Lakers next season?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I saw a story about Trae Young possibly coming to the Lakers. Is that a fit?
I think it is.
The ball. LeBron has to have the ball.
I think LeBron played quite well this year. He did well without the ball. He had to start taking the ball again in his hands, Ricky, because the other guys weren't doing what they're supposed to do. D'Angelo and all those guys weren't. They were causing problems, and so LeBron had to start taking over again. But remember, he has guys that he loves, like Austin Reeves. So LeBron bought in. A lot of people bash him. They're actually making me start to love the guy. They bash him so much. He get well, you know, the guy's won 4 championships. I don't care about all that. He had to go team up with this guy. He had to go team up. He couldn't do it without those teams wanting him. And so I just think I think he's capable at this point of doing whatever it takes. If he has to play off the ball with a guy like Trae Young, you put him and Trae Young in the pick and roll. If it's not Trae Young and AD half the game, it's Trae Young and LeBron. I think it fits very well, and I think it would also benefit Trae Young's game.
And the criticism Anthony Davis got throughout the playoffs, was that warranted?
Well, I started calling him alternate days, but I was just kidding. The guy averaged, well, he averaged 26 and 12 and 2 blocks a game. So if you could show me another guy out there, maybe other than Giannis, that was putting up 26 and 12 a game and 2 blocks, you're not going to find that out there in the NBA on any other team. So that's something him and LeBron will have to discuss. AD has it in him, Ricky. For some reason, he's too much of a team player. And if you look at it, even go back, it's his history. When he was at Kentucky, he was the best player. But he always, for some reason, kept his teammates involved. He just wasn't a guy that was going to take 5 or 6 shots in a row. And that's just not in his DNA. But there is a way that the Lakers could find him, get him to be more consistent. It just takes more time. If we remember, this group was not together until after the trade deadline. So they still are basically, we're learning each other on the fly. And I think AD was not the reason they lost. I'm not giving up on Anthony Davis and 26 and 12. It's just something as a team that I think that they could work out. And that just comes with communication.
Yeah, I give you credit, man, because I didn't conference finals. Hell, I didn't think they'd make the playoffs. But you kept saying, watch out for the Lakers. They aren't done. So you saw something I definitely couldn't see with that team.
Well, they have a good mixture of guys. When they brought in Beasley and all those guys, the guys that end up disappointing them down the stretch. But even if you look at Beasley, his role changed as the playoffs went on, and that comes from building up confidence. Darvin Ham's in his first year, so he's going to have to go with the guy. He's going to go with the guys, their comfort level. If you look at it, he basically put the roster down, started going 6 or 7 guys the last few games. And he's, Hachimura, he had a lot of faith in him. But who was that other guy that was going to show up? Lonnie Walker was up and down. So he lost confidence in a lot of those guys. And, when your life is on the line so much, and it's 3 games, you're 3 games down, a lot of times you scrap all the other stuff and you go back to your comfort zone, and that comfort zone might just be a 6-man rotation.
Hey, D, now Vincent is ruled out tonight. And Brogdon for the Celtics is playing with a partial arm tendon tear. So, and Brogdon's only had 2 points in the last 2 games. Does losing Vincent and having Brogdon playing a reduced role, does that even out? Or losing Vincent is bigger?
That's a great question there, Ricky. My goodness. The only thing that worries me about Brogdon is not even the injury. It's just maybe that's what his head doesn't seem to be there. His confidence. It must be it must be his shooting arm or something, Ricky, because he passed up some shots that were uncharacteristic to me in game 4. And if he's a guy that's capable of getting you 15 to 20 points, so I'm just wondering what's going on with his head. Has the injury affected him mentally? So it seems that it has these last 3 games. For him to not score and score 2 points, that's not Malcolm Brogdon. No. Yes, I guess it kind of evens it out with the Gabe Vincent thing. Man, if he doesn't show up tonight, Boston's in trouble. So I will say that. If they don't get a better game from Brogdon tonight, they're in big trouble.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about some of these coaching vacancies, D. And we always hear the same old names, and I get that. Guys want some proven guys. Here in Detroit, the Pistons made a significant offer to Monty Williams. He said thanks for no thanks, and he plans on taking the year off at least. What are your thoughts about Monty Williams and all these guys, Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, Doc Rivers, kind of the same old guys that we always hear about? Is there a place for younger coaches? But after I hear you talk about Joe Mazzulla, that makes it kind of hard, right?
Well, no, I think there's some young guys out there. I just think Mazzulla was in a tough spot, Ricky. You don't go from sitting in the second chair and then all of a sudden overnight, man, they tell you you've been picked by Brad Stevens to take over. I think just like it's a learning curve for rookies in the league, NBA players, it's the same for a coach. So I'm not going to say that he couldn't become a better coach next year. It's just that this year he's been thrown into the fire. How many coaches that get a job after the team went to the championship the year before? And then especially at that age. So I'm going to give him a little pass. I'm going to say it's not so much because of his age. I'm going to say it's mainly because of the circumstances that went on in Boston this year. But back to these coaches. Monty. If Monty's going to take off a year, that tells me he wants a team to come into a team that's championship worthy right away. And I think they have a few of those teams out there this year that's just a coach away or a coach and one player away. Yeah, so you're surprising me by telling me that about him taking a year off. I think Nick Nurse, there's a good opportunity for him out there. Budenholzer, all those guys. Well, there's a team out there that I think that they could fit into this year. And we will see what happens after the draft. After the draft, next month, there are going to be some of these coaches that are going to wait until then, and then they're going to be getting assigned to some of these spots that are going to be open. Coaching carousel is not ending today.
Yeah. Would you say Milwaukee is the best opening, or Phoenix?
I thought Milwaukee was perfect for Monty, to be honest with you, or Nick Nurse. So the Monty thing really caught me off guard when you said that, because I thought it was perfect for him. Maybe he didn't take the Milwaukee job because the stuff we've been hearing about Giannis, maybe migrating some, head off to the Warriors or stuff. So maybe he didn't take that job because he doesn't know what's going to happen with Giannis. He doesn't know what is going to happen as far as Brook Lopez and those guys next year. So maybe he just wanted to come into a stable environment. And I think it'll be the same for Nick Nurse and these guys. You don't want to go, I'll say, downward. You want to step into a team that you know is on the way up, and that they're, the players are going to be there. The chemistry is going to be there. And some coaches won't take a job until they see that.
I think Doc Rivers is going to end up in Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's going to try to get a veteran coach. I can see Nick Nurse, but it'll be that type of guy that goes to Milwaukee.
I could see Doc there, Ricky. That would be. I think that'd be a great move for him too. I don't think anyone could go wrong going into Milwaukee. Milwaukee was kind of looked at somewhat like our hometown, Ricky, like my hometown. Where you from? You've been there. You know all about Detroit. You've been there for years.
Yes, sir.
So a lot of people might, they just get a bad rap. It's kind of like Monty passing up the Detroit situation. I know we're not a team that's built to win right now, but a lot of people have a different opinion of Milwaukee after they won that championship. So I think that's a job a lot of people will step into, and hopefully the same will happen in Detroit eventually.
I wonder if he'd have said that if they'd have got Wimbiana. If they'd have you got the number one pick. You got Cade Cunningham coming back. I might take that.
Well, that would probably make more sense. I don't think I could take off a year if I could get Victor Wembanyama and pair him with a Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham and those kind of guys. Even Ivy. If you look at the Pistons they have a lot to look forward to. And so they're going to make a couple of decisions, of course, of Killian Hayes and those guys. What are they going to do with them? We know they got rid of Sadiq Bey, who ended up doing really well in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to say, I'm hoping one of these coaches, these veteran coaches, will take that Detroit job. So there's a job for Milwaukee. There's a job for Phoenix for one of these coaches. All of these coaches are going to end up coaching again this year. Yeah. Budenholzer, not Monty, but I think Budenholzer will be coaching again, and we know Doc will be coaching again this year. Maybe Doc will end up in Phoenix. Ricky, what do you think about that?
Yeah, a veteran coach. I get why they want these guys. It's just, but I know it's some fresh faces out there too that I'd like to see.
Can I say this, Ricky, quickly? The reason that I think they're kind of skeptical about the younger coaches is because when you have a veteran team, it's harder for the younger coaches to reach these veterans because the NBA is all about, like, who is this guy? What have you done for me lately?
Right.
And I think that makes a lot of teams kind of skeptical about bringing in unproven coaches when you're dealing with guys that's making $50 million a year. Because Joe Mazzulla, at the end of the day, Joe Mazzulla's not going to be there longer than Jason Tatum, who's eligible for a $300 million max contract. So it comes down to how much faith do you think these coaches, their hands are kind of tied. There's only so much they can say to a veteran player. So I think, that might make some of these owners a little skeptical, or general managers, vice presidents a little skeptical about bringing in younger coaches.
And Carmelo Anthony officially announced his retirement the other day. Played 19 years in the NBA. Man, and it would have been great, speaking of the Pistons, if he had started his career here, and he would have got him a championship and probably helped them win more than one. But your thoughts on Carmelo's career. And let me read this to you, D. I kind of like what he said. He says, I'm at peace. That doesn't bother me anymore, not winning a championship. That idea that you're a loser if you don't win a championship, for me, I've won. I won back in 2003, the night I shook David Stern's hand on that draft stage. I made it out of Red Hook, his neighborhood. I've won at life. The ring's the only thing I didn't get. It would have been a great accomplishment, but I don't regret it because I feel like I did everything I could to get it.
Ricky, you talking to a guy. You talking to a guy that has a Hall of Fame brother that didn't win a championship. So I'm gonna see it different than a lot of people. Carmelo has had a first ballot Hall of Fame career. I don't care if he won a championship or not. It was not his intention to not win a ring. He did his part. He did everything he could to win a ring. It just didn't happen. Sometimes you run into better teams. It's kind of like George. When George played, the Spurs had a great team, but they ran into a better team. I'll say the Spurs had a very good team. They ran into a great team called the LA Lakers. Magic Johnson, Kareem, and James Worthy. So sometimes things just don't go your way. But it's not a reflection of what you did as an individual in your career. Carmelo is a top 10 all-time scorer. Here's the sad thing, though, Ricky, about him that separates him from my brother. And I'm so glad my brother didn't have a number 44 playing with the Spurs before he did, a legendary number 44. How can you retire Carmelo's number in Phoenix? I mean, in Denver, number 15, when you got Jokic currently wearing that number.
Right. Can't do it.
So, and that's what hurts me the most. Because Carmelo has, if you look at it, he had the potential. Hey, Ricky, didn't you think about it? He had the potential to be like LeBron, right? Have his jersey retired with two teams, with Denver and the Knicks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that tells you what that alone. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
That right there tells you he had a very successful career. Championship or no championship, you and I are discussing Carmelo Anthony, a top 10 scorer of all time. And I agree with him 100% because me being from the ghetto, the inner city of Detroit, Michigan, my brother being able to go on and have the career he had, and look where we are today, Ricky. We're in San Antonio, Texas. So, yes, Carmelo got out of Red Hook like he said. That doesn't mean he's leaving Red Hook completely, but he was able to do something for his family and provide something for them and generate generational wealth. So, yes, he had a very successful career.
Man, I'm totally with you on that, D. I think of guys being critical all the time. He's never won anything. Well, what have you won? I mean, if you're in the newspaper business, our Super Bowl is the Pulitzer Prize. I never won the Pulitzer Prize. I never won the big one in all my years as a writer. But I think I was a pretty good writer. I think I was a pretty good reporter. It would be hypocritical of me to talk about somebody being a failure because they didn't win a Super Bowl when I didn't win the biggest prize in my profession. I mean, it is the effort that you put forth. And like you said, he feels satisfied because he did everything he could to try to win one. That's the man in the arena.
The man left it all on the floor. I mean, we could say everybody had weaknesses in their game. I would say even Mike, everybody had some little weakness in their game. Carmelo, but you look at it, the positives far outweighed the negatives. The positive, and then the type of person he is. He's such a good guy, man. Even today, everybody knows about his former wife, Lala, but now we're looking at the young guy that's coming up behind him, Cayenne. His son, Kaya. And the reason that he's in the media is because of what kind of guy his dad was. It wasn't just basketball. Carmelo was also a guy that took time out for the media. He was just he was the kind of guy that you kind of gravitate to. And that only adds to his basketball legacy. So I'm saying, Carmelo, I love you. And coming out of the college, You were my favorite player when you were with the Syracuse Orangemen, and I think you had a fantastic Hall of Fame career, and I salute you, sir.
And man, we wish we'd have had you in the D.
Yeah, add that in too, because
early
I
on.
mean, I wish that as well. I'm born and raised in Detroit. I would have loved to have Carmelo Anthony there.
I could just see him now on that roster, the way they could have used him. But hey, it is what it is, and Carmelo did have a great run, and he's a Hall of Fame basketball player. D, speaking of Hall of Famers, we lost one the other day. The great Jim Brown passed away at the age of 87, and he was just a remarkable football player, arguably the greatest football player ever. But he was a great man, and he wasn't a perfect man. Some people tried to bring up some of the things he did in his life. I mean, this dude lived 87 years, and you bringing up 4 or 5 incidents that occurred over the span of 87 years. Can you imagine when I go, if somebody brings up all the bad things Ricky Hampton did? I mean, you got to look at the total body, the total work, the total life a person put in. And when I see Jim Brown, I salute that man for his life and his contribution to our society.
Ricky, you know, if some people go on to live what they call almost a perfect human being life, there's still some people going to shoot them down. So we know how that goes. If you look at this man here, I'll say four names, Ricky, and I wouldn't have to say much more. Jim Brown, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
When you're in a forum with those 4 guys, or those 3 guys, remove Jim Brown, and just for him to be around those 3 guys, he wouldn't have been around them unless he exemplified what life is all about.
Yeah.
You talking about an Iron Man on the football field who never missed a game, and he was an Iron Man in life. He spoke up for right and wrong. And some people don't like that, as you know.
Yeah.
I love Jim Brown. I grew up on Barry Sanders, but I can never overlook Jim Brown. The man, if you look at the stuff he did, Ricky, I think one year he might have had more yards than the whole team.
And see, I look at some of these highlights, and it's just incredible. Man, that big. He was 6'3", 225. Just could run like he could, man. And he was elusive. He was powerful. I mean, but more than that, like you said, what he did off the field. I read Maurice White's autobiography. Maurice White, of course, the great band leader of Earth, Wind, and Fire, and it was Jim Brown who supported that group and helped them grow in their early years. Jim was in the entertainment business, and he was a big supporter of Maurice White in Earth, Wind, and Fire. And in his autobiography, Maurice White credits Jim for keeping that band together until they got, of course, established and became one of the all-time musical groups.
Yeah, Ricky, Jim Brown, he did. So people only talk about sometimes the things that they see on television or whatever. But remember, there's always behind the scenes as well. And I've heard a lot of people. I know a lot of athletes. I've been around a lot of athletes. And Jim Brown was special. There's going to always be someone that's going to come up with the negatives. But once again, it goes back like what I said about Carmelo. The positives far, far outweigh the negative things that he's done in his life. And the man lived to be 87 years old. And God had a purpose for Jim Brown. There's a reason he lived 87 years. And I think he delivered a very positive message for African Americans, Afro Americans, black people, whatever you want to call us, minorities. I can go on and on. I'm going to say rest in peace, Jim Brown. I love you. You'll never be forgotten. And I'm sending my condolences out to your family.
Yeah.
Pure love, Jim Brown.
The great Jim Brown, 87 years old. Thank you for your time here and all your contributions. Hey, D, we're going to get out of here a couple of minutes early, man, so we can go catch the game. What are you looking for in this game tonight as they get rolling?
How Boston comes out at the beginning, because I know that Miami is they're gonna up the intensity right from the beginning. Miami this is what people, I hope they're not missing. Miami is upset that they didn't win that game, because they had opportunities to win game 4, and they took their foot off the gas pedal. So tonight I'm looking at Miami coming out right from the beginning, getting up in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and basically making someone else try to beat them. And so that's the main thing I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on Miami's adjustments more than I am Boston's.
Okay. Hey, well, we're going to get out of here. We'll be back next Thursday. But until then, from my great friend Derrick Gervin, I'm Ricky Hampton. Peace. Enjoy the game, and we will be getting into the finals. I can't wait, D.
Ricky, I love you, man. As we say in Detroit, one love. And all the listeners, thank you for tuning in. Everybody have a fantastic night.
All right. Have a great holiday weekend, everybody. Talk to you later.
Yes, sir.